will this help the two Michaels get released, and will China retaliate? Let's find out. Joining me now is the Foreign Affairs Minister, Marc Garneau. Minister, first of all, thanks for joining us. 58 countries, including Canada, obviously, make this coalition. It is a name and shame. I know it's about enforcing international norms. Why was there no sanctions attached to countries who arbitrarily detain citizens?
Well, this is the first step, Evan, the declaration, and as you say, 58 countries, a fairly impressive group of countries. So this is very significant. I would say it's even historic, and my predecessor, Minister Champagne, is the one who started this process, and I'm going to try to continue it to build up even more critical mass in terms of countries willing to sign on, because we know that other countries are looking at it. It's a declaration, but we're going to work together with the countries to see whether we can do other things beyond a declaration itself. We may even approach some of the international organizations such as the UN, the G7, the G20, other bodies.
Approach them to what? Adopt the declaration, do you say? So try to obviously make it more broad? Or are you suggesting the name and shame is the first step, but there is a movement potentially to add some teeth to it, to say, okay, we'll name and shame, but we will also add sanctions?
Well, certainly a declaration begins the process of putting pressure on the countries in the world, and there are a number of them, that practice arbitrary detention, which is not only illegal and against human rights, it's immoral. So this is the first step, but we want to talk with the countries who signed on and made important declarations today to see how best to approach it. And if I can very quickly talk about the last time that Canada did something significant like this, it was against anti-personnel mines and cluster bombs, and that was a Canadian initiative that started off perhaps slowly, but built momentum and ended up being a treaty in 1997 because momentum was built up and the international community realized it's wrong. It's wrong to do this. And we hope to have the same success on this declaration about arbitrary detention. It's wrong.
Yeah, fair to say, and that was Lloyd Axworthy, another Foreign Affairs Minister who did that. By the way, that was incredibly important as well. Look, this declaration is meant to broadly apply to any country engaging in arbitrary detention, as you said, Minister. Obviously, it's hard not to think about Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor today, 798 days in prison. But they were not named, and China was not named. Why not name China if indeed, as your government has said repeatedly, they have arbitrarily detained the two Michaels?
Well, we have spoken about the two Michaels, as you know, for the past 2 years. But today was a declaration about the fact that arbitrary detention is a practice that is unacceptable in today's world, and it always was. So we were focusing today on the practice of arbitrary detention, and we wanted to be country agnostic. And as you heard, if you watched it, over 40 countries made statements today. A few of them did mention countries, but most of them focused on the fact that this was the practice of arbitrary detention. And that's what we want to keep the focus on at the moment.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Look, the declaration is country agnostic in the general principle, but the application is country specific. And there seems to be a concerted effort not to name China. So is there any hope? Is the purpose of this to help get Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor out of prison more quickly?
We want to put pressure. Sometimes, you know, in the affairs of men, if I can put it that way, it's important for the international community, hopefully, to speak with one voice about an issue that is so egregious that we all have to come together. And I think it's remarkable that in the space of less than a year, 58 countries, and that includes the European Union, it includes the G7, it includes a number of other countries, have felt strongly enough about this that they've come out and signed on to this declaration because they're worried about their own citizens perhaps going to another country and then perhaps having a difference of opinion with that country and their citizens ending up being detained. Nobody wants that to happen. It shouldn't be happening. And that's why they came together with us. And we're going to work on all the countries where there is arbitrary detention. And there are a number of them, as you know.
I do know, but let's, the theory of it, I totally appreciate. I totally understand the necessity to enforce international norms to make arbitrary detention something that is never done, but it's being done. It's being done by China. It's being done on 2 Canadians. I know there's other situations, but that is the situation that is at the sharpest end of the stick. When will Canada use this new declaration and name China and make it applicable to the 2 Michaels?
So what we're going to do, as I mentioned, is we're going to work with the other signatories of this declaration, and we're going to come to a consensus about how best now to move this forward beyond a declaration. So there are a number of ways that we can do that, but I don't want to prejudge how the other countries with whom we signed this declaration are going to want to proceed. So this is truly an international effort, but it involves working together in partnership. And so I'm not going to predict how it's going to go to the next phase, but I will tell you, we're not going to let up.
Okay, so in other words, I just want people to understand, there's not like a methodology to determine when a country has done arbitrary detention. Look, I know Canada's concluded China's already done it, so it seems that's a slam dunk case from the Canadian point of view, but you're working on some kind of series of thresholds before a country is marked there. Are you worried, sir, that China is going to look at this, realize clearly it's aimed at them among other countries, and will retaliate and make things worse for the 2 Michaels?
Well, as I said, sometimes it is important for all countries to stand up to speak against something that is so universally unacceptable that it is worthwhile making that declaration. That's what we felt we needed to do today. We know that there are countries out there that arbitrarily detain citizens of other countries, and we need to put them on notice that 58 countries so far have signed up to this. That is our purpose in making this declaration, but then going beyond that so that we achieve a world where nobody gets arbitrarily detained. And even if 2 countries don't agree with each other on a particular thing, that they will never resort to arbitrary detention.
I think this is a really important moment. Quickly, 2 other things before I let you go. The federal government, as the Globe and Mail reported today, is working with Huawei to sponsor research at Canada's university. Our allies, our Five Eyes allies, say this is crazy. Why would you let Huawei to partner with these universities for sensitive technology? There are security concerns. Will the government change position, or how do you justify letting Huawei do that?
Well, I would say 2 things. First of all, NSERC, which is the granting body, the National Science and Engineering Research Council, is an arm's length organization that decides how federal government monies should be used for research, and they often work with the private sector. At the same time, we in Canada are also concerned about protecting important intellectual property. So we've started a dialogue with organizations like NSERC and with the universities, and that is an ongoing dialogue to make sure that the research, the important research that needs to be done, is also mindful of the need to protect Canadian intellectual property. And that's an ongoing piece of work at the moment.
And the question will be, though, if there's retroactively applied to that deal. I know this is a big question, but I got to ask it. There's been a lot of talk about the Olympics and Beijing 2022. Much of it hinges on whether Canada is going to conclude that the Chinese are committing a genocide against the Muslim minority Uyghurs in Western China. Is Canada looking at that, and when will Canada come to a formal position on that?
Well, if you're talking about the very disturbing information about the treatment of Uyghurs, we are looking at that and all evidence with respect to it. And in the meantime, we've said that China should allow independent bodies to go in and verify what has been alleged. And that is very, very important. With respect to the Olympics, the government's position is that it is the Canadian Olympic Committee that makes the decision about whether or not Canada should participate in the invasion.
Unless there's a genocide, then it clearly can be the federal government's position, right?
Well, at the moment, we're not going to speculate about where we're going to end up, but the current position with respect to the Olympics is that the Canadian Olympic Committee makes a decision about whether Canadian athletes will participate in Beijing.
All right, I got to leave it there, and I do appreciate your time on an important day for this declaration. Thank you, sir.